What's up guys, welcome back to another video. So starting the video off on this buggy rock crawler thing we're working on. So I originally wasn't making any content of this because we don't really actually know the owner that well. He's a friend of Rex's. Rex went out with these guys to a property the other day, you know, just to have some fun as a bit of a test day for this buggy here. And there was another bloke out there with the buggy as well. Rex took the cruiser out there and had some fun with them. And it was meant to be a test day for an upcoming race that they've got. And this bloke unfortunately had nothing but problems all day. So it's apparent we have learned that he has had ongoing issues with this thing for a very long time, and he really is starting to get to a point that he's getting pretty over it. So as you can see, there is a lot of money sitting here in this thing. So you can imagine that, you know, to outlay that much money to build something like this, to continue to have issues, it would weigh you down very quickly. So Rex sort of told him just drop it at our place. We'll take a look at it, see what's up with it, and try and sort it out for him. Hopefully he'll have no more issues. So that's pretty much what he did. We didn't really know what to expect at the start. The issues that he was having was the TPS had stopped working, and you know, and then towards the end of the day, this thing just wouldn't run. It just stopped running at all. So it'd start, it'd fire, and then it would just die. Wouldn't idle properly, wouldn't do anything. So yeah, here it is, and I'll take you through what we found. So still haven't really talked to the owner about making the content, but the more we talk to him about what we're doing, the more he wants us to investigate things, the more work we're getting out of it. And so the next time I talk to him, I'll ask him if it's alright to make content. That's why I just thought I'd start this video. And obviously the more that we investigate, the more we're finding, so the more we have to make content out of it. So I'll take you through exactly what happened. So in this thing we've got a 4th gen 6-litre LS with rectangle port heads, but it's powered by a Haltech Elite 2500. We found that the TPS issue, once we finally got down to the bottom of it, was some wiring that had been sort of joined and a wire had broke. So upon fixing that, we finally could get the thing to run again, but it was continuing on the Haltech. It was bringing up trigger sensor issues, trigger errors. So we thought we'd go a bit further and investigate, you know, the cam angle sensor and as well as the crank angle sensor. We found that the crank angle sensor plug, the wiring into the plug, just over time, being an off-road vehicle, it's obviously getting quite weathered. You know, it's moisture. You know, it's exposed to the elements. These things, they put them through some wild things off-road, and obviously just the wiring of that the crank angle sensor plug had sort of just gotten brittle and sort of deteriorated, and we found some exposed wiring. So we ordered a new CAS plug because we didn't have any of the pins in stock to actually just repin it. So we just ordered a new plug. Rex is currently installing that now. So we had to pull the starter and the subframe and everything off this, or not the subframe, but the bash plate frame for the motor and everything, to get the starter out to get at the crank angle. So Rex is just recrimping, rewiring the plug in. We'll put it all back together, and then we're going to sort of investigate pretty much to see whether that was our trigger issue or not with the Haltech. So just from our time poking around in the actual Haltech software, we found that like the timing map, the values in it are widely not really correct for this motor combination. Now this motor has been raced with this setup and tune on it before, which means that it can't be the real-time timing. So obviously a very common thing with LSs is because they don't have any timing marks on the harmonic balancer or any timing pointers or anything like that to do your physical mechanical timing check. Usually the Gen 4 and Gen 3 ECUs that come factory, they're pretty much assigned for the timing, and they learn the crank top dead, and that's pretty much how it goes. But when you go to something like a Haltech, an aftermarket ECU, where you have to input the trigger signal, you have to set the offsets. And because there's no way to double check the timing offset with the mechanical timing of the motor, because there's not really any physical way to do it, it seems like someone's probably set the offset wrong and then done the tune to suit, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that generally for us, we'd rather see the real-time figures in the map. Just gives you a better idea, but obviously it's not timed too bad because it's still alive and it's done a race. But we are, once we've fixed up our CAS issues and we've got it running and it's got no more trigger issues, we are going to actually make some marks on the crank, make up a pointer to put on the motor, find top dead with the plug out of the cylinder 1, make sure we got it right on top dead, and yeah, actually physically put some marks on it so we can check the timing and actually set the offset correctly so that the timing map can then start to be a proper actual figure of timing. So whoever has tuned this engine has set it up in full-time closed loop, pretty much self-learning tune, which is okay. But we're pretty confident we can get a bit of a nicer tune on it in open loop with the dyno and everything, obviously. So we're hoping to get this thing back together, get our trigger issues sorted. We're hoping that this new crank angle sensor plug sort of sorts out our problems with our trigger issues, and then we'll set the offset, and then we'll get it onto the dyno, and we're going to give it our own tune for him, and hopefully squeeze some ponies out of it. And hopefully after we've sorted all these issues, hopefully you can go and race this thing and not have any more problems. So you can see this thing is an epic unit, an absolutely wild unit, off-road racing. This is definitely something that I personally would love to get into, but it's a lot of money. But yeah, definitely a lot of value in this thing, and we'd certainly like to get it completely sorted for the owner so that he can really enjoy the thing. And you know, do some really nice racing and hopefully get some good results. So you can see our 6 litre poking down in there. This 6 litre has got a aftermarket throttle body, which is not drive-by-wire. So it is aftermarket TPS, and obviously whoever's converted it from drive-by-wire has redone the wiring, and that's why we found that we had a broken wire in there just from all the punishment these things receive off-road. So the other thing we've got here is whoever actually did set up this Haltech and do the tune, they didn't incorporate any of the knock detection and knock retard in the ECU, which is a bit strange considering that the Gen 4 LSs came with really good Bosch donut sensors already, and they're in really good, nicely accessible places on the block. And obviously the Elite 2500 being Haltech's sort of top level elite ECU definitely has the means to have knock protection and knock control. So we want to investigate possibly putting that into the ECU as well, actually wiring it in and setting it up. We're just not sure. We need to talk to some more people that have more experience in off-road racing to see if there may be a reason that they don't do it. It may be a commonly practicing thing in off-road racing. Unfortunately, we don't know enough about it, so we're sort of going to try and work with the owner of this and see if there may be a reason, and hopefully get some knock control set up on this ECU so that this thing, we can really sort of pump some timing into it and get some power out of it, and trust that it's going to protect itself if, you know, if it gets a bad batch of fuel or something along those lines. So, but very excited to be doing this thing. It's definitely something we're excited to have our name on, and really excited to get it out there, and hopefully the owner has a lot of fun and makes some noise and does well at some race meets. Righto guys, so we had a pretty successful afternoon with this thing, getting it sorted. We've put our new CAS plug on and fixed up all that wiring, and it's not bringing up any more trigger errors now. We've closely analysed the timing map, and we're pretty happy to just leave it as it is, not go through the effort of trying to reset the offset. We had an idea of the trigger issues that it was bringing up in the ECU, that the incorrect offset versus the home signal on the cam might have been wreaking a bit of havoc and causing some issues with our trigger issues. But because the new CAS plug has fixed all our trigger issues, we're not getting any more trigger problems anymore. We've decided it's not worth the time and effort to chase the offset if it's only a few degrees out, because at the end of the day it doesn't particularly matter as long as the ECU is giving the engine what it wants. So with that being said, we've actually also traced the knock inputs in the loom, so they're actually already in the loom. It's obviously just a generic Haltech loom for a Gen 4 LS, and the knock plugs are on the loom. So all we have to do now is talk to the owner about actually wanting to put knock control on the engine, which for us is a bit of a no-brainer. And sort of we'll sort that out next week with him and put some knock control in this thing, and then we're ready to hit the dyno. So we'll get onto the dyno next week, so we'll pick this up then. Righto guys, out here on Sunday trying to get a bit of a head start for the week because we've got a really big week coming up. So we spoke to the owner of the truck here, and he's very happy for us to set up knock control. It's something he's actually wanted on the car for a long time. He was told by a shop previously that they couldn't get it working, so we've ordered our knock sensors. We're going to do all that probably tomorrow. Hopefully if they get here tomorrow, we'll set all that up and actually get it all plugged in and wired in so that we can set it up on the ECU and have knock control. So today we're just sorting out a few other things. The transmission temperature gauge in the car apparently has never worked. We did some investigating and found that it had actually been hooked up incorrectly. So we've just fixed that. We're just fixing up a few other wiring issues that we found on the car. At the top of the loom here, just in here where the loom bolts up on top of the manifold there, out of the way, there was some damage to the loom, and the sheath had all sort of been melted and come apart, and there was no sheath over this part of the loom, so we've chucked some Spiro on that and taped it up with some loom tape, a good Tessa loom tape there. So hopefully that does not become a problem from here. The wires were still in good condition, nothing wrong with the wires. It looks like the sheath was just damaged, so sort that out now. That's pretty much where we're at Sunday. So currently at the moment what we're doing is we located where the knock sensor wires actually go to, and they have the correct plugs on them for the Gen 4 LS knock sensor. However, they are not long enough and not routed the correct way to actually get to where the knock sensors are located on the block. So I'm unsure if that's just a fault with the loom, or whether because the loom is in something like this, like an off-road truck, whether it's just been routed in such a way that they couldn't get the knock sensors down to where they need to be. So instead of trying to pull half the loom out and try and reroute everything and mess around with everything like that, what we're going to do is just cut off the plugs for the knock sensors that are on the loom. We're going to replace them with Deutsch 2-pin DTMs, and actually just make like a pigtail for each side out of a good wiring. We've ordered some new plugs for knock sensors, so it's just going to be a pigtail for each knock sensor with the Deutsch 2-pin where the loom sort of gets to. And that's how we're going to wire in the knock sensors. So still not much work to get it happening, and very glad that it's actually all already in the loom and incorporated into the loom there. So very easy thing for us to do. So that's what we're doing at the moment. And yeah, so as soon as our knock sensors get here tomorrow, hopefully we'll get that set up, and then this thing's ready to hit the dyno. So we're going to have a really big week, so we thought we'd get here Sunday today. We had a few other things to do and just try and get some of this little stuff out of the way that potentially may hold us up, and try and take the pressure off for this week a bit. So hopefully this thing can hit the dyno on Tuesday. So as tight as everything is in this buggy here, the big advantage is the way that it's been built. You've got heaps of little access windows all over the place, which give us really nice easy access to stuff like this. So this is the standard Gen 4 knock plug on the loom. As you can see, it branches off the loom about here. We're right behind the head. So there's no way that that's going to reach down to where the Gen 4 knock sensors actually are located on the block. So anyway, at least, you know, obviously being back up here, it was going to be a real pain for us to get to from the top, but because we could take this panel off, we've got a nice open access. So keep the theme of all the Deutsch plugs, and yeah, make some pigtails to the knock sensors and get this thing really set up with good knock control. So as I've said multiple times on multiple occasions, guys, we are not qualified auto sparkies. This is definitely not, you know, we wouldn't take on a complete sort of engine loom sort of thing, but we did invest, well, Rex invested a lot of money into the right wiring tools and plugs and everything we need for little things like this, so that we can sort out issues pretty much. Doing good repairs. Yeah, do good repairs, little issues. So we do have all the right equipment, all the right wiring, all the right sheath, you know, all the right plugs, everything to do good quality wiring, but we're not, you know, efficient. We don't know enough about it. We're not qualified auto sparkies. We just have the right equipment to do things properly like this. So we are excited to get this thing back to the owner, and hopefully finally he can have it sort of problem free, because it sounds like he's been absolutely plagued with issues, which is not something you want when you invest this much money in a toy. So
all the gear and no idea. It's us.
As far as wiring goes.
Yeah.
Alright, so DTM Deutsch plug on the loom, ready for our little patch loom to the knock sensor at the bottom of the engine. So that, one less thing we have to do later on. So we've got here a good TFX wiring. So yeah, we'll just pin the other end of the we'll just pin the other end with the Deutsch connector. We've got our distances for our two pigtails. So we can at least, yeah, pin the Deutsch end. We can put our proper sheathing on it, have it all set up, heat shrunk, ready to go. That way all we have to do is pin and install the knock sensor connector end once it gets here, hopefully tomorrow, and install our brand new knock sensors and bang it all in, plug and play. There you go. So pigtails made up, ready to just pin and put on our knock plugs. Pow. So we'll pick this up tomorrow when we get those. Righto guys, what's going on? We're back into the buggy today. So we've been in communication with the owner, back and forth. He's given us pretty much a list of other things that have sort of never been hooked up or working properly on the buggy. So we've got a few things to go through and try and sort out for him and try and get working. A few just little wiring connectors, things like that, chase him a few little issues. So We're still waiting on our knock sensors, but we're hoping to have it on the dyno today. We can still sort of get our fuel map sorted in open loop on the dyno today, and hopefully our knock sensors will be here this afternoon or tomorrow, and then tomorrow we can really get into squeezing some power out of it. So got a fair bit to do, but yeah, pretty excited to get this thing absolutely sorted. So there's a few things on the dash, gauges, lights, a few things that just he reckons have never worked. So we're going to try and investigate what's going on there, whether that be wiring issues or bulbs or whatever it may be. There's a few little fans and stuff on coolers around the thing that also have never really worked. The light bar on the roof's never really been hooked up properly, so try and pretty much get this thing ready to race, because he's got a race coming up, he wants it ready to go. So hopefully by then we can have it sorted. But just trying to move it around with whatever tune's on it. It's like it doesn't catch revs. I can't believe he's put up with it for this long. It's been difficult to even move around. So excited to get it sorted, excited to get it nice and crispy so that it returns, catch revs, and it's just perfect. He also wants us to reprogram the IQ3. There's a few things that he wants it to display that it doesn't already, and a few things on it that he doesn't really particularly need to be displayed because he's got analog gauges right next to it. So that's going to be our first sort of look at IQ3 as well, and trying to program one of them, so that might take us a little while. So that's all good. It's all sort of few new things in this for us, which is awesome. I love learning that new sort of stuff. Alright guys, so we've had a pretty good day on this buggy today. Unfortunately our knock sensors still aren't here, our knock sensors and plugs, so that's a pain in the bum. But we have gotten everything on the dash working. All of these gauges now are working, all of the lights in them are working. I've looked into the Haltech. Unfortunately it's an old school logger dash, and instead of having the USB mini port on the back of it, it's actually got the 3.5mm jack that you used to use a 3.5mm jack to serial cable from Holly or Haltech. So I do not have one of those cables because that's fairly old stuff. So we're going to talk to the owner and see if he maybe has the cable that came with the dash. If not, we're going to have to try and look into what we can source to try and get something to program the dash to change what he wants to change. So we've gotten all the fans and the coolers and stuff working. So we've got a secondary trans cooler here, which was not actually, the fan wasn't hooked up. So we hooked up the fan and got that all sorted. Got a nice weather pack down there. There's a secondary trans temperature sender there, so that the owner can, or the driver can see what the temperature in the box is, because there's one in the box as well, but also the temperature of the trans fluid that's going into the box from the coolers, so you can see how much it's cooling. So that's all working as well. Sorted out all the wiring under the dash and everything, so we're pretty much ready to go now. As far as this thing, we've pretty much ticked off the list of all of the things that he needed working. We've got the light bar working. We've got some wicked lights now, and it kept blowing a fuse for the driving lights, so we ended up just putting a bigger fuse in for the driving lights there. So we've got lights for days. Frickin' hell, especially once they get going. That's crazy. Actually, it turns out as well, these aren't even his tyres that he races on. So these are 35s, and these are just sort of the tyres he puts on for test runs, you know, riding around the paddock or whatever. When he's actually competing, he's got some 40-inch tyres that he puts on it. So be excited to see it with those 40s on it. I reckon it'll look insane. But yeah, it's been a good day, pretty long day. But you get that. Wiring's a time-consuming, tedious job. But you know, at least it's all done to a T now, and everything works. Everything's awesome. So anyway, we've pretty much run out of time today to get this thing on the dyno and start doing anything with it. But it is ready to go for the morning. So once again, like I was saying, we'll get on and start on our fueling and stuff, and we can tune it as best we can without the knock sensors. But apparently our knock sensors are stuck in Sydney or something, or whatever they are. Still waiting to get up here. So we're not actually sure when they're going to be here at this point. So we'll just see what we can do. Righto, so although it's a bit late for us to actually get this thing on the dyno and start running it up, I just thought I'd give you a bit of a look at sort of what we're dealing with while we're going to sort of get in and sort out the idle at least to start with, so that we've got somewhere to go from tomorrow. So this is what we're dealing with. It idles not bad. It's not too bad. It's permanently in closed loop. That's how this tune is, but look at what happens here. Dead, just dies. So it does that every time without fail. It just will not catch idle at all. It just moving it around has just been an absolute pain because it's just stalling all the time. So we're gonna get in and sort that out. Righto guys, so just a quick playing around with the timing, the base map and the zero demands, and this is what we're getting now. Still needs a little bit of work, but see how that catches now? That's good. So there you go, a bit of a play around. Now it's recovering really nice after revs, catching idle really well for such a cammed motor with no IAC, so that's a good place for us to start now tomorrow. Righto guys, so we played around a bit more this morning with the base map. We actually turned the idle up a little bit because we found that the cold start, it just didn't have enough air. So, because the thing's got no IAC and it's a really big cam, it just didn't have enough air at cold start, and there was not much more we can do except for idle it up. So we actually ended up just idling it up a bit and pulling a heap more base timing and idle, just to bring the idle back down once it's hot. But it seems to be starting pretty well now. We'll try another hit at the cold start tomorrow. But it's revving, coming back, catching idle, everything it's doing awesome. So we've got the thing on the dyno just about ready to go. We strapped it in. I've also strapped just the diff, just because we've never had anything quite like this on the dyno, so I don't really know what to expect with these sorts of, you know, big 35-inch muddies. So we thought we'd strap it in nice and well and feel it out. So the other thing is this thing is freaking loud, like so loud. So unfortunately, as you see at the moment, we don't actually have a dyno cell. There's no real noise protection proofing, and we do have neighbours, so we are trying to be considerate as we can. So we're hoping, being NA and also the fact that it doesn't make a lot of vacuum, hopefully it should be quite a quick fuel map to tune. But what we're going to do is I'm going to close this door. I'm going to drop this door down just to sort of maybe waist height. I'm going to set the fan here and just blow just for general airflow. Obviously the radiator's up behind the seats, so it's not really doing a lot for cooling, but just to get some general airflow through the shed. And I'm hoping that with these doors somewhat closed, hopefully it'll just collect a lot of the noise out the back and stop it from going through the front and echoing through to the neighbours. So just trying to be as considerate as we can. Obviously we have plans for building a dyno cell, so hopefully that won't be too far away. We actually have a proper dyno cell, because that'll be awesome. But for now, we've got to try and keep our neighbours on the good side, because we want to keep operating this business here. So doing our best to try and limit noise as much as we can within reason. But anyway, first thing I'm going to do is reload the map that we took out of it, pretty much exactly how it came here. Going to reload that back in and just do a run up, just a power run, just to get a baseline of where it's at and what it was doing. But we're still dubious on what the timing is actually doing, so we're only going to do one run like that. But we'll do one so that we've got a baseline of where we're starting at, and then after that we'll load where we're at on this map back in, and we'll continue with our tune and see how it goes. Righto, so this thing is freaking loud, as expected. It was a bit hard trying to set the dyno because of the converter, so it took us a few goes to get it. And because I wasn't watching the dyno, I was watching the laptop to see what revs we were actually doing to make sure we didn't take it all the way to limiter, because this wasn't accurate because we couldn't set it properly because of the converter. I missed the button on the first two runs, but got a good run that last run. 301 horsepower, so that's pretty much our baseline of where it is when it got here now. We don't think it's going to make much more than that when it leaves, but it's the area between here and that 300 horsepower where it's going to make all the difference. You know, having that nice crispy transient acceleration and stuff like that, where as before it was, you know, bogging and it was not catching idle and it was not running right. So I don't reckon we'll make much more than 300 horsepower, but at least we got that as a baseline and we can go from there. So we're just we're going to recalibrate the O2 on the dyno at the moment, just because we noticed that the Haltech O2 was reading a little bit richer than the dyno is reading. So the dyno is saying that it's real lean, but the Haltech with the wideband is saying that it's pretty good. So recalibrate the dyno and start from there and start on actually doing our map. So I've gone and disabled the closed loop again. So now we can actually just start on our fuel map and start on our open loop table and go from there. So our knock sensors are here as well. The old man's just gone to Nango. He's going to go grab them for us. So hopefully our plugs that we need show up in the meantime, and then potentially this afternoon we can have the knock sensors and everything wired up and have this thing ready to go. Righto guys, so just working through this thing, we've come into a problem where it started to just throw the belt. So we've been watching it, keeping an eye on it. Pretty sure it's just both a pretty sad belt and a bit of a sad tensioner. So I think it's just a combination of both. So we've ordered a new belt and tensioner. They won't be here till Friday. And we're still waiting on our plugs for our knock sensors. So still, you know, can't really get there. We have found though that the AFR, pretty much the O2 sensors that are wired to the Haltech seem to be out of calibration compared to what the one for our dyno is. We trust our dyno more because this is what we use to tune everything. You know, that's our tuning tool. We use it all the time. We're pretty on top of our calibration on our module, and they are reading a bit out. So it was obviously, as I explained earlier, it came to us and it was in complete closed loop fuel trimming, 100% all the time. So as you can imagine, if the O2 sensors in the car are not calibrated correctly, that's not going to be good. So they were reading really rich, so it was probably trimming a lot more fuel, so it was running fairly lean. So we've given it a fair bit more fuel, and it's loving it. It's reacted quite well to a lot more fuel. Obviously, we're going to do our fuel map and then leave it in open loop. There's not really any reason for us to have a race truck like this in closed loop, but it does display AFR on the IQ3, so it would be nice to try and get it calibrated so that at least it's displaying accurate the same way our dyno is, because I'm 100% sure that that's going to be more accurate than what's going on in the car. So it's an old school Platinum O2 module, AFR module, so I'll have to have a look and see how we can maybe calibrate that. I've never dealt with the old one like that. So I know that the newer Haltech AFR modules are pretty much exactly the same as the Dyno Dynamics one that we've got, but this is an old school sort of Platinum one, so I'll have to pull it all down and have a look at calibrating it, but it's not a big deal at the moment. We're tuned to what our dyno's reading and we're doing pretty well. So we're back up now to pretty much, what are we, at the same timing it was when it got here? No, we're still 1 degree. Still 2 below. 2 degrees, yeah, so we're still 2 degrees below the timing map that was in it. And just from fuel trimming and playing with a few things, we've ended up at 324 wheel. We're pretty happy with that, like 25 wheel horsepower gain at 2 degrees less timing is good. That's really good. So we're stoked with that. At this point, we're going to chuck another degree in at the moment, just up top, and see what it does. But we're pretty happy to pretty much leave it at that for now. It's good power. It's nice and safe. And you know, once it's got actual knock detection and control, it should be right as rain. And just everywhere in the map up to there is just so much crisper and nicer now than it was before. So we're pretty happy with the tune. But yeah, we'll chuck another degree of timing at it. Hopefully the belt doesn't throw this belt this time, and just see what it does. But we're getting pretty happy with that. So hopefully our plugs and our O2 sensors will be here. Well, our O2 sensors are here, they're on the way here now. Our belt and tension will be here Friday. Hopefully our plugs for our O2 will be here tomorrow. So hopefully by Friday afternoon, we'll have this thing not throwing belts, not control done, ready to go. That's the new plan at the moment.
You said O2 sensors.
NOx sensors is what I meant to say, sorry guys. It's been a long day. Been a long day, but it's been a successful day. So anyway, we'll chuck another grid at it, see what it does, but 324, that's a 25 wheel horsepower gain. That's pretty good from, you know, an aspirated 6 litre turbo 400 that's built a massive diff and on 35s. I reckon 324 is a pretty staunch number, so we'll see where we go from here. Righto guys, so we had a bit more of a play around. Pretty much adding any more timing didn't yield any benefits that are worth having the timing in there. So back to where it was, and yeah, so 324 is our number, which is, in my opinion, quite staunch. I reckon that's gonna be awesome, so. Righto guys, we are back. So I had tomorrow. I had yesterday off. I had to go do some things down on the coast. Where I left, we were hoping that we were going to have, well, Rex was hoping that the plugs and stuff would at least get here yesterday so that we could get this thing sorted today. They still haven't arrived. It's Friday, which is a real pain because the owner wants to take it tomorrow for a test drive, which it's not a big deal. It's still tuned. He can take it. It's just that the knock detection still isn't set up because we don't have the right plugs to set it up. So anyway, Rex spent a heap more time yesterday sorting out the cold start on this thing, and at the moment we've got to get it off the dyno because we've got a Hilux to tune today. So we're just, Rex is just checking what the cold start's like this morning. Pretty cold morning out here. As you can see, it's a pretty dismal day. So we'll see how it goes.
Spent a lot of time yesterday trying to sort it. So that's from like 17 degrees.
Yep. Alrighty, so that cold start's mint. Rex, yeah, as Rex was just saying, he spent ages yesterday trying to get that completely sorted. So pretty amazing that it starts and idles like that on cold start now, and when it came here it wouldn't even idle hot. Like, it's crazy how much difference that you know, the tune really makes. It's like, people talk about your power figures, but at the end of the day, getting the power figure is pretty much the easiest part of tuning. What's hard is getting everything in between, getting the cold start dialed perfectly, making sure the thing idles, runs perfect, you know, revs up, comes back, catches idle, doesn't dip, doesn't hang. It's that's the harder part of the tune. So considering that thing's got a pretty big stick in it and no IAC, it's pretty awesome that Rex got the cold start that dialed in. So. I have talked to the owner at this point now and actually been given the green light to make content of that thing, you know, which is awesome because, as you've seen in this video, I've already made heaps of content. So glad that we can actually put this video out. That's going to be awesome. So we're still waiting on our new belt and tensioner, which they're due to show up today. So fingers crossed they actually get here today so that we can sort that out this afternoon, so that the owner, or in the morning even, so that the owner can take it tomorrow for his test run. Not having the knock control at the moment, it's not going to bother it for tomorrow. It never had it to start with, so it's not that big of a deal. It's just a pain that we won't have it finished. Righto guys, so we got the big buggy back on the dyno. We got our new belt and our new tensioner. So first thing we did was just put the new belt on just to double check, because we sort of wanted to know whether that tensioner was any good. What we found is the new belt, it's a lot better, but it did still walk after about 4 power-ons. It did walk forward still a little bit. So we're going to put the new tensioner on it anyway, because we have it here. So we'll make sure this thing's got a new tensioner and new belt, but still not convinced that it is the tensioner. pretty certain it may be this aftermarket alternator sort of mount bracket thing. So actually I'm going to make a second video of driving this thing and getting footage of it driving and stuff, and then doing the knock setup. So I'll make another video of that. So that's going to be the end of this video, guys. But yeah, look forward to that. Next video is going to be us hopefully ripping around in this thing. Well, not us, but the owner, and hopefully get some good footage of us getting a good rundown with it and seeing how it goes. So thanks for watching, as always. Hope you've enjoyed this thing. We've had a heap of fun working on it. It's been awesome. So yeah, tune back in for the next one. Thanks for watching. Smash like, smash subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you next time. Peace out. See you. Bye.